I wish I had a clear answer for you, Jemana, but essentially there's no way of knowing until we get a bit more clarity on the DUP's position, a bit more clarity from some of those former Conservative MPs that were expelled from the party last month as to whether they're happy with the terms of this agreement. We've just seen some of the details of that being released by Task Force 50. That's the team inside the European Commission that's been negotiating this with their British counterparts. And it'll take some time, I imagine, for some of those MPs, people like Philip Hammond, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, to go through the details and see whether it meets their requirements when it comes to the survival of the Union. Of course, that's one of the big questions about whether Theresa May was able to get support in the House of Commons, was not only to do with the future trading potential for the United Kingdom, but also what it meant for the division between Northern Ireland and the rest of Great Britain, the United Kingdom. That will be something that MPs like Philip Hammond, like David Gauke, the former Justice Secretary, those that were willing to vote against the government on a very important issue in the past, whether they're prepared to now line up behind the Prime Minister.
Willem, you've got to think that Boris Johnson maybe would have learned from the mistakes that Theresa May made. And we heard from the DUP earlier this morning, as we spoke about, saying that they had resistance to the initial Brexit deal that was being proposed just a couple of hours ago. You would think that the government would take those comments on board, take them back to the EU and come up with a solution that would be palatable for the DUP. Otherwise, they'll just be in a situation where the deal cannot get through on Saturday, and then we're back to square one again.
The alternative way to think about this, Jemana, might be, well, you've now got the British government, you've got 27 European countries if they sign off on it, and you've got a vast majority of a parliament potentially in favour of a deal. That might put a huge amount of pressure on the DUP, and their voters might also put a huge amount of pressure on the DUP politicians, the members of Parliament, the 10 of them inside Westminster, to agree to this. The technical term that they like to use in British politics is to be bounced into a decision. It could well be that that's exactly what the Prime Minister is trying to do. It's not clear whether that's the case. Clearly, what we do know is the DUP has had individuals inside Downing Street the last 3 nights. Their views have very much been taken on board by Downing Street, otherwise they wouldn't be having those meetings. And despite that statement you point to earlier this morning, they weren't happy with the shape of the deal just a few hours ago. It may be that this is a way to try and force them into accepting it, or the other alternative, of course, is that the Prime Minister, ahead of that meeting of Parliament on Saturday, is thinking he has support from some of those Labour Party MPs who in the past have said they would like to see a deal quickly, they would like to avoid no deal. It may be he feels confident he can get a majority using their support in the face of continued DUP defiance.